All right, all right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allen community, we hope that you are doing well. We hope that you are in good spirits and in good health, inshallah. Tonight, we'll be starting and kicking off a very exciting program. A lot of work has been going into it for the past couple of weeks and days, and we're excited to finally kick off the Quran circles. So, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, definitely pay a visit to the Facebook page to find more details about the program. You'll find registration links. We have a few members that are here in person. Rest assured, they filled their paperwork and waiver forms, and they got social distancing and masks, and everything is being followed. With that being said, we will, inshallah, be reading from this copy of the Quran. So I'll put it a little bit closer to the camera so y'all can see. We'll also post a link, inshallah. So it's the Quran, a new translation by Abdul Halim. The reason why we chose this, well, it's a very simple and easy translation to follow. And so for that reason, we're hoping, inshallah, everyone, you can either purchase the copy yourself, or we have a few copies available here, inshallah, that you can purchase from here as well. The program, we're going to keep it short, sweet. Hopefully, within the half hour, we can wrap things up. But essentially, the whole idea of this program was to have verses of the Quran and make them relatable into our daily lives. And so this month we wanted to kick off the program and the series with the theme of coping with stress and anxiety. So we know right now, of course, with all the craziness and the madness that's already going on, a lot of us have school, we have exams that are coming up, studying for those exams and so on and so forth. So a lot of times this is considered as hell month, right? Is hell month? So hell month. So stress and anxiety is something that is pretty common. It doesn't matter. It's not age specific. It's not, it's not gender specific or religion specific. Everyone in some shape, way, or form goes through stress and anxiety. And so today, inshallah, we have a few different verses. I'll also share my screen with y'all that are tuning in. Those that are here can open up to, inshallah, page 425. And I will go ahead and share my screen. Bam. So these will be the few verses that we will be using for today in our reflection. So we have Surah Duha, which is page 425. And also we will be going over the following surah, Surah Sharh, which is on page 426. And then there's another ayah that we will be going over as well. So to kick off the program, we'll give everyone a couple of minutes to go ahead and read over the surah. Thereafter, we have a few questions for everyone that inshallah everyone can answer. I think the most ideal for those that are tuning in, this is a youth event, but of course everyone can benefit from it. So if you are going to tune in, you're going to be consistent. Definitely, I encourage get a pen, pencil, or book, preferably that you can keep these notes in. You can continue to follow them and continue having them. Inshallah, that is the idea with this program. So we have Surah Wad-Duha. Everyone can take a couple of minutes and go over the surah, and then we'll go over the few questions that we have, inshallah. So for the next couple minutes, I will make it full screen for everyone's viewing pleasure, inshallah. And a question that I wanted to share with everyone that was asked by one of our attendees: is it okay to write in your copy of the Quran? As long as the sanctity of the Quran is upheld, right? We're not doodling, and Captain Underpants and Diary of a Wimpy Kid isn't making its way to Surah Duha, then that is totally fine. If it's for learning purposes, you want to jot down some notes, regarding the ayah, some words, some key words, things like that are totally okay to go ahead and do. Those that are tuning in, we are kicking off our Quran circles. Right now, you currently are viewing Surah Wal-Duha and the translation of Surah Wal-Duha. Inshallah, right now, everyone is pretty much just wrapping up their reading of the surah. And then we'll have a few questions for everyone. So if you wish to write down your answers, feel free to them in the comment section. You can either write them down on a piece of paper to hear your thoughts and see what everyone has to offer, inshallah. All right, so is everyone, we can proceed? All right, seems like the crowd is ready to move forward. And so with that, we open up the key questions that we have from the surah. So we'll go over three different elements in the program. The first being the key questions. Then we'll have a connection maker. I'll explain that when we get to that. And then lastly, we'll have a passage picker. Which of the passages stood out to you the most? And then we'll discuss that. So the first question that we have is, what do the first three verses of Surah Duha signify? What do they mean to you? So the first three verses are a little bit interesting because even the words that Allah selected in communication with us was really intriguing. They're very short, but yet really, really profound. So the first question is, what do the first three verses of Surah Duha signify? The second question, should we take it question by question or should we do all three questions? All three. The second, okay, I think all three. All right. So the second question is, what are typical coping mechanisms that we usually resort to? As human beings, oftentimes we're wired in terms of our behavior, in terms of how we cope with things, in terms of just the mechanics of day-to-day life. So what are typical coping mechanisms that we as humans often resort to? And the last question is, do these verses and ayat that we typically hear, whether it be in a lecture, heard it on a podcast, do they actually provide healing and do they provide comfort? So those are the three questions that we will be discussing. What do the first three verses of Surah Duha signify? Would y'all like to share some of the answers, some of the attendees that we have here? We can start with the first question. What do the first three ayat of Surah Duha signify to you?
I think it means like regardless of the time of day, so like if it's night or morning, it doesn't really matter what's happening around you, but God is not with you.
Awesome. It doesn't matter whether it's day or night. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has never pretty much left your side, right? Safe to say. Awesome. Do you have an observation that you wish to share with us?
It means like kind of the same thing, but also it's like the first, since it says that that's when he's talking to the prophet, it's like the first assurance that he's given. So he's like, okay, well, regardless of whatever's happening, you just need to know like this one thing.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And we have some of our attendees here that are on the Zoom chat as well. Is there anyone from the Zoom that would wish to kind of give their answers? We have Hafid Hafiz here and Hafid Mariam here. Anyone that would wish to give their answer?
Mariam and Hafiz. I don't know if you guys heard that. Do you guys have?
I mean, yeah, I guess like you can like add on to basically what they said, where like Allah will like always be there for you, maybe even if you forget about Him, or even if you think that He's not there, and like through the day and the night.
That's a very, very powerful answer. So regardless whether it's day or night, and sometimes even when I have forgotten Allah, I just always know that He has not forgotten me. Was that it? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Awesome. No, those were all very amazing answers. This is actually one of my favorite surahs. I really, really love the surah, more so because of the reason why it was revealed. So you were kind of hitting it on a little bit. It is that reassurance, and it's actually one of the first reassurances that the Prophet Muhammad got. Because anxiety, things like that, we often think like it's us just as human beings, right? Like prophets didn't really go through things like that. They were just, of course, in communication with Allah. They were prophets, right? They just lived a whole different life. Like they didn't go through things like we do. And what's interesting is when you read this surah and you kind of read the background behind it, it's actually totally different. We find ourselves in a time where the first revelation had just happened. So we had gotten Surah Alaq, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, the first surah that we know. We had gotten Surah Muzammil, the one where his wife came and covered him with the blanket. So we had these first three surahs. But then after that, revelation stopped. And it stopped for a really, really long while. Some people say upwards to even like maybe 6 months. And every single day was such a challenge for the Prophet Muhammad that he literally started to have self-doubts. Is Allah not happy with me? Did I fail the mission? What did I possibly do wrong that caused him to give me something so beautiful and something so profound, but now all of a sudden, for 6 months, it's like, it's just gone. That avenue was just totally closed. When he felt that kind of missing out or, the doubting of oneself, again, it was on a far minuscule scale compared to, us and regular human beings, right? But the fact that he even felt that it says a lot. The fact that he was even questioning himself, the best person to ever walk the surface of this earth, was questioning himself. I don't know if I'm good enough. His self-value, his self-worth, even in his own eyes, just fell and kept falling and kept falling. Then Allah revealed this surah to him. When he was going through all of that, right? So now picture this kind of image of the Prophet Muhammad, who was really like the embodiment of the optimistic attitude, right? Like he was always super optimistic. It didn't matter. He always saw the bigger picture. He starts to doubt himself and Allah gives him his surah. Allah says, well, duha, right? And Allah swears by the morning sunlight. Whenever Allah swears on anything, he's trying to draw our attention towards that thing, right? So, okay, he's specifically talking about sunlight, all right? وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. And then the night when it grows still. مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. So Allah is basically like in these literal like 2-3 sentences is showing us that, hey, y'all see the sun come up every single day, right? Y'all see the sun settle every single day as well. Y'all see the moon come up. Y'all see the stars come up. Has that ever not happened? Has it ever been where like the sun's like, nah, I ain't gonna come up today. I'm gonna take a rest a little bit. It doesn't happen, right? And Allah's basically saying, look, if the system of life shows you every day that Allah's never faulted from his system, مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. Allah has not abandoned you, nor has he become hateful of you, right? So the first three sentences were like a reassurance to the Prophet Muhammad. Then the second two were just like, hey, sometimes our focus gets put on the wrong things, right? A lot of times the anxiety that we have and the stresses that we have is because my emotions were just not channeled in the correct avenues. And so Allah turns his attention and he says, وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى, verse 4, and then verse 5, وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. He's like, surely whatever the future is definitely going to be better. There's never been one person who's been through continuous just difficulty, right? There's always some moments in life that are good, some moments in life that are bad, right? There was a wise person, and someone came up to this wise person. They had a ring, and they gave it to the wise person. They said, write something on the ring that anytime I'm overly happy, it brings me to earth. Like it settles me down a little bit, calms me down. I don't get overly excited and overly happy. And every time I'm upset, it brings me whole again, and it levels me out, makes me not upset. It makes me happy. Write me one sentence. Now that's an interesting task, right? Write one sentence that's able to encapsulate all this emotion for me. So the wise person wrote one sentence. You ever heard this story before? So the wise person just wrote one sentence, and he wrote, "It shall pass." 3 words. It shall pass. Whenever you're going through something negative, it shall pass. No negative time frame is always or eternal. And same thing for happy moments. Oh, I passed, or you went to someone's, there's someone had a child, right? So Allah bless someone with a child, or someone got married, or whatever the case is, right? There's so many happy, joyous occasions, but it's for a limited time. It will pass. So Allah, by this, showing us that, hey, don't get caught up in the world. You're always going to have that, right? And we're going to actually see that in the next surah as well. There's always going to be that. And then the last part of it, which is, I think, probably the most amazing part of it. So Allah's like, okay, cool. Sometimes we get out of touch with reality, right? I think Hafiz on through the Zoom call gave a really awesome answer. Like sometimes we forget ourselves because we just get so caught up in life, right? I don't remember the last time I prayed or the last time I picked up a Quran. Like you just get busy, right? And sometimes because of that busyness in life, things don't hit me the same no more. Or I just don't feel like I have that same relationship with Allah like I used to have once upon a time. So then Allah says, for those like probably myself, super hard-hearted, what's the formula for y'all? Allah says, فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. If you feel like you're having a hard time, well then go meet an orphan. Go see what the life of an orphan's like. Not even sponsor an orphan. Not like take an orphan under your care and under your home and under your custodianship. It's none of that. It's just go meet an orphan. Go meet a poor person, right? Go see what their life is like, actually. And see how it is not to have accessible running water or be able to use the restroom or have food. Just see what that life is like. Literally in about 11 verses. And then Allah ends it and he says, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Talk about the blessings of your Lord. And stress and anxiety a lot of times is synonymous with gratitude, right? But we'll get to that in just a second. So this surah is really like one of my favorites for that reason, because there's not many times you find in the life of the Prophet Muhammad where he was feeling the way he did, at least at this time, where he just had so much self-doubt, right? And just uncertainty, what's going to happen in the future. And then Allah gives him this surah. What are some typical coping mechanisms that we usually resort to? All right. What do y'all think? What are some typical coping mechanisms that we as human beings usually go to? Personally, yeah, I mean, you're a human, right? So
No, because when you get like stressed or like you're overwhelmed, sometimes you start crying.
crying. Yeah, no, that's true. I didn't hear what you said properly the first time. Crying is definitely one of them, right? Crying is just a very natural human emotion. Okay, what's another way that we try to cope with the situation? Clean. Some people, okay, start to clean.
Like I just keep myself busy. Like I have to do something to ignore.
Okay. Keeping yourself preoccupied. Would you have any answer? Do we have?
I think both combination of both of those answers is exactly what I do to cope.
Anyone on Zoom that wishes to give an answer?
Either Mariam, do you guys have anything to share? What are some coping mechanisms that you guys?
Like going and talking to family members or close friends.
Talking to family members and close friends. That's really awesome. Okay.
mechanism.
It's a healthy coping mechanism.
Mariam, I think I see you unmuted as well, so.
If you're blessed with those type of family
I
members, that is.
usually, like, talk to my friends who are like write in a journal about it, or I like,
That's really good
blog
too.
something down.
That's a really good one.
So talking to friends, right? So kind of piggybacking off of the other answer. So sometimes all of us don't have those family members that we're comfortable speaking with and things like that. And so we have friends. And then that other answer about writing it down, that is absolutely that's absolutely important. That's something which is so, it goes a really long way to be able to pen your thoughts down and actually write out what you're feeling at the time. All right, and the last question that we have, do these verses and passages of Quran provide healing and comfort? What do y'all think? Do verses and passages of Quran provide healing? Yeah, personally, yeah. I mean, generally, I think all of us would agree yes, right? But the idea is just like, okay, how does this practically actually fit into my life? You get what I'm saying? So through a practical lens, does it actually provide healing and comfort?
I think it depends on what you need at the time. I mean, everyone needs, well, most people need like reassurance from somewhere, and if you're not finding it from a lot of places, then maybe turning to the Quran would help. But like, I see how some people would be like, I don't see how like words written on a piece of paper can help you. But if you're one of the kind of people that like reads to cope with something, or that like writes to cope with something, then maybe that would help. Or some people will like listen to the Quran or listen
Yeah.
to podcasts and stuff like that. Like I know a lot of people who do that. So I think it just depends on the medium. But the words themselves, yeah.
Okay. Do you have an answer that
I
you?
don't understand the question.
So it's just more so just like, a lot of times I think just kind of piggybacking off of that point, yeah, to some it's just like, hey, it's just words, like does it actually provide me anything? Like just the Quran circles right now, like us even discussing like a surah Duha or a surah, like do verses of Quran, like what's the kind of extent of how we use them? Are they actually supposed to provide me comfort, or do I just read them and say, okay, I believe, like,
I think
You know?
if you're looking for it like to an extent, like if you're in that kind of place, you're obviously going to the turning to the, like if that's your way, then you're turning to the Quran, then you're gonna like find it. It's gonna help you. But like if you're just sitting and like reading and you're not having a problem, I don't think.
I think you like need to want.
Yeah, you need to want it.
okay, awesome.
Anyone on the Zoom call have any input? Either medium?
All right, so
Great.
typical coping mechanisms, I mean, I think we can kind of throw in with that is probably over, like just kind of just emotional eating. Sometimes some of us have that. I'll just stuff my face with whatever just because I'm going through it, or I'll binge watch something, right, because just like I want to get my mind, but I think ultimately just revolves around that. Do whatever it takes to just get your mind off of it, right? So that's some coping mechanisms. Now, this question, I specifically brought into it, do these verses and passages actually provide healing and comfort? I think everyone kind of gave appropriate answers, but kind of like a collection of all of it is it absolutely does. Well, if I read the translation, now just to kind of like about Surah Duha, for example, how much more of an understanding did it give you about just the words, having known the context behind them, having known the reason why they were revealed, or at least what the Prophet Muhammad was going through, versus just, hey, just reading it and just kind of trying to make something out of it. Do you get what I'm saying? So I feel like with even like the verses that we have in Quran, a lot of times why there is this kind of massive disconnect is because a lot of times for us it's just words, right? Like that's why this program was so intriguing, right? Because it finally, okay, we will have some sort of connection and relatability with it. But majority of times, like, okay, it's not our language. It's an Arabic. I don't know what it's saying. And fun fact, actually, like majority of people who memorize the Quran also don't know what it means. So there's just this really big disconnect, right? And so, but the Quran in of itself has so much meaning, so much power, and it actually most definitely does provide healing. Just again, granted, I think there's this also kind of misnotion, right? do I only go to it when I need it, or is it something which is part of my kind of day to day, right? So of course Allah is merciful; He's gonna help me out, even if I go to Him only when I need Him. But granted, what would be the better case? Me having it as kind of like a daily thing, or just as an accessible Uno life card, not Uno, Monopoly life card. That's I mean, and it's a lot easier said than done, right? Like that's usually what the goal is, but it's at least knowing the goal first before even trying to make steps towards it, right? So that's why Allah is so big on, okay, iqra doesn't really just mean to read. It's like read, understand, try to figure out what it's really trying to say. All right, so we have a passage picker, where everyone gets a chance to basically pick a passage from the surah that you found, for whatever reason compelling, and share those reasons if you can, for why you selected that passage. So for those that are tuning in to the live, we will go ahead and I will, bam. So this is the surah that you're seeing on the screen, and you can feel free to comment, or even just jot down whatever you feel like is a good passage.
So the line.
Yeah, any line from the surah specifically that stuck out to you, that ultimately, like, it would be the best, right? Since we are kind of already going over the surahs, why not just kind of have like a list on the side, like, of all these different ayahs that just were compelling, that stuck out a little bit more, and then you'll see at the end of it, you'll have like kind of just like a whole index of different ayahs, right? Like, okay, coping with anxiety and stress, I have like a list of different ayahs, so things like that. So
I have the. Or is this okay?
I think that's okay.
So again, those that are tuning in through the Facebook Live or the YouTube channel, we are selecting a passage from the surah. So any one ayah or multiple ayat that stuck out to you, and why. Do we have some answers here that we would like to share with the whole crowd?
I think my favorite part, the part that stuck out to me the most, was like ayah 4, where it says in the future will be better for you than the past. And then,
What about that ayah?
I mean, personally, like, I'm a senior in high school, so I mean, the future is on my mind a lot recently because I am applying to college and just like going through my camera roll every other week, and I'm like, oh
Right.
wow, look at the times, that was so fun. But then I have to remember that, like, there's a reason for everything, and moving on with my life will probably be better for me,
Right.
regardless of what college or what path I decide to go with.
Yeah. And no, that's absolutely exactly what the ayah is really about, right? Like, the past, regardless of how that shaped out, the future is always something that, is still something to look forward to. Do you have an answer that you would like to share with us?
Yes. So mine's like that one too, but also the next line where it says, "Your Lord is sure to give you so much that you will be well pleased." I think that's like interesting to read, especially knowing like the context when he's talking about like reassurance. Because like reading that and like if you're anxious, you're like, okay, I know that like he's going to give me something, or like if I need something that like I will get it and I will be happy, like I'll be in a good situation because I know that like he's got my back.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's actually really, really well said. I mean, and that's exactly what the ayah is. It's that reassurance. So the second answer we got was ayah 5, وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَىٰ, and surely whatever Allah will give you, you'll be pleased with it. And what's interesting is in that ayah, Allah just kind of leaves it general, and He's like, I'll take care of that. You get what I'm saying? Like, don't worry about it. Whatever I give you, you will be ecstatic about it. So that is really awesome. Do we have any answers from our members that are joining us virtually?
I was gonna say ayah 42, وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى, because I feel that like obviously we're working like towards the future, and like most of the stuff that we do is like to prepare us for our future, and so like knowing that like we shouldn't look on the past and look towards the future more is like reassuring us that like we're on the right path.
Yeah. Awesome. The answer that we got for those that are tuning in was also ayah 4, just having reassurance that, even though the past might not have been great, the future can definitely be the opposite of that. Do we have any other answers?
Or you want to share?
All right. So I think just to kind of wrap up, I had about 6 different steps that I just kind of compiled, practical, actual steps to kind of deal with anxiety and stress. And so I have them pulled up here on the screen for those that are tuning in. And so for those that are here, you can either write them down, in the same surah, kind of along the same context, whichever way y'all feel is the best. The first is number 1, confusion causes worry. So what that basically means is when I don't have the facts straight about my situation, about what the different parameters or elements are in a problem, a lot of time that confusion can just lead me to more worry and more anxiety. The first step should definitely be getting the facts straight about the worries, and about how one can even solve them. So that is number 1. Number 2 is live for today. The worries of yesterday and tomorrow, even though they do definitely stick in our minds, right? We miss the past, whether it be people that we had in our lives or experiences that we had, and we worry about the future, right? To the one point that we had earlier: college, work, future, financial stability. But live for today. Worrying about the future and grieving about the past, we often miss the present. Number 3 is whenever you're facing trouble, embrace the worst case scenario and try to improve from there. It's one of my good friends uses this. It's prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So I'm hoping, so my belief is, Allah is definitely going to be there for me. And yes, He's going to help me, but I still prepare, for worst case scenario. So that way, when worst case scenario does arise, it doesn't catch me by surprise, or I'm not blindsided by it. Number 4 is don't sink energy into hopeless situations. A lot of times we need to learn how to set a limit on ourselves, on myself. And I know myself best. What are these limits that I can set on myself so I don't continue spiraling down and putting energy in places where it doesn't belong, whether it be in people and situations, or even sometimes grudges, not putting energy into hopeless situations. Number 5 is be happier by focusing on the positives in life. This is very closely synonymous to gratitude in Islam, shukr, but that's a whole separate discussion in and of itself. But be happier. Do I look at the glass half empty? Do I look at it half full? And remembering the words of the wise man, it will pass. And number 6, I really enjoy this one as well. Don't expect gratitude. Give for the joy of giving. A lot of times, I will be a thankful person. I will be shakir. I won't complain. I will be able to see the good in a situation. But I feel bad when people don't reciprocate that. I feel bad when people don't give me the same type of energy that I give to them. And the answer to that is don't expect gratitude back. Give solely for the sake of giving. And so these are the 6 coping mechanisms that we have. Did we have any questions from the crowd, the massive crowd? Number 3 we had was whenever you're facing trouble, embrace the worst case scenario. Or in other words, you can put hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So you're still hoping and praying, making dua, doing all those things, but I'm gonna still go ahead and prepare as if though it's worst case scenario. Any other questions? In the back there? No? Okay.
Do you guys have any questions on Zoom?
No.
All right. All right. Inshallah, that is pretty much what we have for the first Quran circles. Inshallah, stay tuned. For those especially in the youth group, we will be sharing the verses that we'll be having. So this is an ongoing program, inshallah. The themes will vary, of course, and we'll continue changing them. And we'll, of course, keep it as relevant as possible. So the idea is, again, the conversations that Allah has in the Quran, making them relatable and applicable in our lives. And so, with that being said, Jazakallah khair, y'all, for all of those that tuned in. This is your brother in Islam, Nauman Khan, and inshallah, we will see y'all when we see y'all, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.